I never thought my dream job would turn into a nightmare within just a few hours. My name is Ariba, I'm 26 years old, and I had just landed my first real corporate job after years of struggling. Coming from a modest background in Lahore, I had always believed that hard work and dignity would take me far. And maybe that's why I was so excited when I received my offer letter from one of the top multinational companies in Pakistan. I still remember that morning like it happened 5 minutes ago. I wore my neatly ironed navy blue kurti, paired it with black trousers, and tied my hair in a tidy ponytail. My mom had made me breakfast, kissed my forehead, and said, "Biaskuda kanam lakanikal beta, sabzahaga." I arrived 15 minutes early to the office. The building was massive, glass panels, automated doors, a marble lobby that smelled of expensive polish, and a receptionist with a perfect smile. I felt small but proud. "Hi, you must be Ariba," said a tall man in a sleek gray suit. "I'm Imran, your department head." I smiled and nodded nervously. "Nice to meet you, sir." He walked me to the elevator and chatted casually. "You'll be reporting directly to me for the first few weeks. We like to keep things hands-on around here." The HR had already given me a tour, but Imran insisted on showing me the real places. We passed through workstations, break rooms, and conference halls. He made small jokes that felt a bit personal, but I smiled politely. After all, it was my first day. I didn't want to seem cold or ungrateful. By 12 p.m., he invited me to lunch with a few other new hires. At the table, he was charming, funny, and knew everyone's names. I remember thinking, he's a good leader. I'm lucky to learn from him. After lunch, he told me he wanted to walk me through some onboarding documents in a quieter space. "The meeting rooms are all full. Let's use my cabin," he said with a casual wave. I hesitated for a moment but followed him. His cabin was spacious, with frosted glass doors and a view of the city skyline. He pulled out some papers, gestured toward a chair beside him, and said, "Sit here, you'll see better." I sat down, still unsure. He moved close, too close, pointing things on the paper that I could clearly read myself. Then his voice softened. "You're very different from the others we've hired. Smart. Elegant. You've got presence." I froze. I laughed awkwardly, trying to brush it off, pretending I misunderstood. But he leaned in closer this time. "I can make sure your career flies, Ariba. Or well, you'll learn that some people just get stuck. You don't want to be one of those, do you?" His hand brushed against mine. I jerked away. I think I need to get back to my desk," I said, heart pounding. His smile disappeared. "Of course," he said coldly. "Don't take things the wrong way. I was just helping." I walked out of that room feeling like I was on fire from inside. It was only my first day. I hadn't even finished my paperwork. But something sacred inside me had already been broken. And yet, that was just the beginning. I sat at my desk staring at the screen, pretending to type, but my fingers trembled with every keystroke. What had just happened? Was that really harassment? Or was I overthinking it? Maybe it was just an awkward interaction. Maybe I misunderstood. But no matter how hard I tried to convince myself otherwise, my gut knew the truth. His tone, the way he looked at me, the way his hand lingered too long, it wasn't professional. It wasn't accidental. It was deliberate. It was calculated. I looked around the office. Everyone seemed busy, focused on their work, smiling, chatting. How could the air feel so normal when my world had just shifted so drastically? My phone buzzed. A message from Imran. "Remember what I said, Ariba. Some people rise, others just fade into the background." I swallowed hard. My mouth was dry. My hands felt numb. I wanted to cry. I wanted to scream. I wanted to call my mother and run back home. But I also remembered what this job meant to me. What it meant to my family. My father had sold his motorcycle to help me buy a laptop during my final year of university. My mother had sewn clothes for years to pay my tuition. I couldn't throw it all away on the very first day. But was silence the price of survival? The next few hours dragged like years. Imran didn't come near me again, but I could feel his eyes on me from across the floor. Every time I shifted in my seat, I felt like I was being watched. It was suffocating. When the clock finally hit 5:30 p.m., I gathered my things and practically ran out of the building. As soon as I stepped outside, I broke down. Tears spilled onto my cheeks as I sat on the edge of the pavement trying to breathe. I felt humiliated, violated, and yet invisible. I didn't know who to trust. HR? Would they believe me over him? He was a department head. I was just a fresher. That night I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. I kept replaying the moment in his cabin again and again, wishing I had screamed, wishing I had recorded it, wishing I had done something. The next morning I stood in front of the mirror, debating whether to go back at all. But I had made it this far. I couldn't let one man take away what I had earned through blood, sweat, and endless nights of studying. I wore a black kurta that day, simple, loose, unremarkable. No lipstick, no earrings. I just wanted to blend in, to become invisible. But as I walked into the building, Imran was already at the front, talking to another female employee. Laughing, smiling, placing his hand gently on her shoulder as he leaned in. It hit me like a slap. I wasn't the only one. This wasn't a one-time mistake. This was a pattern. And just like that, something shifted in me. The fear that had gripped me yesterday, it didn't vanish, but it turned into something else, anger. Controlled, silent, but burning. I didn't know how. I didn't know when. But I promised myself I would not let him do this to me. Or to anyone else. The more I observed him, the clearer it became. Imran wasn't just inappropriate with me. He was a predator hiding behind polished words and an expensive suit. Over the next few days, I kept my head low but my eyes wide open. I watched how he interacted with women, especially the new hires. There was always a lingering touch, an over-friendly comment, or an invite to a private discussion that never really had a purpose. But what chilled me most was the silence. No one said anything. Not a single woman looked surprised or offended. They either smiled awkwardly or avoided him altogether. I realized then I wasn't the first. And I wouldn't be the last unless someone did something. One afternoon, while making coffee in the break room, I found myself alone with a girl named Sana. She had joined just a few weeks before me. Her eyes seemed tired, guarded. So I tried gently. "Hey, how are you finding the team?" I asked. She gave a dry smile. "The work's fine." And Imran. That's when her face changed. The muscles in her jaw tightened. She looked down at her cup, then back at me. Her voice was quiet. "He's tricky." That one word told me everything I needed to know. We didn't say anything more in that moment. But when I returned to my desk later that day, I found a post-it note on my keyboard. "We should talk. Privately." Sana. We met in the back corner of the parking lot during lunch. She didn't waste time. "He cornered me in the file room once," she said. "He locked the door. He told me the same thing, he could fast-track my promotion." I ran. But I never told anyone. "Why not?" I asked. She looked away. "Because I need this job. 'Cause no one would believe me. 'Cause HR is scared of him. He brings in clients, numbers, money. People like us, we're replaceable." Those words stuck with me. Replaceable. But I wasn't ready to accept that. That evening, I stayed late in the office. I visited the server room under the pretense of checking system access, but in reality I spoke to one of the junior IT guys, Naveed. He was young, maybe 23, and surprisingly helpful. "Naveed," I asked softly, "do we keep any sort of surveillance backups? Like video recordings of executive offices?" He blinked, nervous. Not officially. But some of the cabins have automated backups. They're stored off-site for a week." "Why?" I paused, choosing my words carefully. "Because I need help. And maybe a little courage." Naveed hesitated. But something in my tone must have convinced him. "Okay," he whispered. "I'll check. Just be careful." The next morning, Sana brought me a list of 3 more names. 3 other women who had stories. Different words, same pattern. All of them were scared. All of them had stayed silent. But now they weren't alone. And neither was I. I wasn't sure how it would end, but for the first time I didn't feel powerless. I felt ready. The day we decided to expose him, my hands wouldn't stop shaking. But I wasn't alone anymore. There were now 5 of us, me, Sanaa, and 3 others who had also faced what Imran did behind closed doors. We met every evening in a tiny cafe down the street from the office. We didn't cry anymore. We planned. We gathered notes, times, messages, screenshots. Everything we could collect without drawing attention. And then came the biggest breakthrough. Naveed messaged me at midnight. "Ariba, I found the footage from the day you were in his cabin. It's all there. I copied it on a secure drive. Tell me what to do." I stared at that message for minutes, heart pounding in my chest. That drive could be everything, or it could cost us our jobs. The next morning, we marched into HR. All 5 of us. First, the HR manager, Mrs. Zubair, looked confused. Nervous even. But as we began to speak, her expression shifted. Shock. Then discomfort. Then something else, resolve. We told her everything. Ariba's first day. Sanaa's file room incident. Text messages. The patterns. The others. Then I handed her the USB. "Watch it," I said. "We know you're scared. So were we. But if you don't act now, it'll never stop." She nodded, wordlessly. By noon, HR had quietly pulled Imran out of a meeting. By 3 p.m., security escorted him out of the building. Just like that. Didn't feel real at first. The office was silent, tense. Whispers passed from desk to desk like wildfire. No one knew what had happened, but they all felt the shift. And then, something beautiful began to happen. Women I barely knew came up to me with tears in their eyes. "Quiet thank you here." A gentle nod there. Even the men, the decent ones, looked stunned, realizing what had been happening right under their noses. The following week, the company launched an internal investigation and held mandatory training on workplace conduct. A separate anonymous reporting system was introduced. And HR sent an official apology to every woman who had ever reported inappropriate behavior and been ignored. But what mattered most? I got my dignity back. I walked into that office on the first day thinking I had to stay quiet to keep my job. I walked in on the last day of that week knowing I had changed something, for myself and for every woman who ever thought she was alone. Imran never showed his face again. And me? I stayed. Not because I had to, but because I wanted to. Because I wasn't afraid anymore.